Teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more. Thank whoever brought you here. To my regular listeners, you already know how I gets down. You know what I'm about. You guys hit the play button, and then all of a sudden your life changes, your moment changes. Something happens in your life that's just getting a little bit better because that's what we're about here. We're about whether it's just myself speaking or there's somebody else coming in. We're here to just help you get through the moment and give you just a little gem, give you something to make it so your moment is a little better. So today I have Mr. Dr. Jim Schleckser. And he, there's a lot of things I could say about him. He has been in business for 30 years. Any type of business you can think of, he's been involved with it. But the one thing that really caught my attention was he has a book titled All CEOs Are Lazy. And it kind of seems like a contradiction when you hear CEO and lazy, but as you dive deeper into the concept, he's really talking about delegating, really talking about letting things go, talking about where you're needed, where you're not needed, what you need to be putting your focus on, all those sorts of things. So all that being said, Dr. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Eswin. Nice to see you.
Yes, my pleasure. And by the way, the most important thing to mention is that he does reside in the great state of Maryland. All right, great state of Maryland, represent the DMV. You know, again, as a young guy, grew up in the DMV playing football and learning a lot of the lessons I learned business-wise was just through those streets that you're driving down I'm in Florida now, but through those streets You're driving down every day, I go there and I just reminisce with all the lessons I've learned. So, to start things off, I know you weren't born in Maryland. I think it might be best to kind of just talk a little bit about your background, kind of how you grew up. And I know for me personally, I watched my dad run his own business is what got me interested in business. So I'm kind of curious, and what first initially drew you into the business world and the industry and things of that nature?
Yeah, so I early, I don't know, 13 or something, I read Think and Grow Rich. And because I don't know,
book's been mentioned a lot on this show.
Yeah, it's a classic, right?
We're gonna say Rich Dad Poor Dad because that one's another one that gets mentioned a ton on
this. Turns out that wasn't written when I was 13, but I did read it later. But and I said, man, I want to run a business one day. But also my grandfather was an entrepreneur. He owned a bunch of different businesses over time, laundromat, printing company, other things. I'm like, that's pretty cool. So I said, I'm going to run a business one day. And engineering degree, MBA, and ultimately started running companies around 29 years old. So basically my whole career, I've run various types of companies. You said I've been in all kinds of different businesses. You're right. And I'm just like a business geek, man. I love it. It's what I'm good at. It's what I like. I jumped into this business, which is CEO advisory work, when I left the corporate world at this point, almost 20 years ago. I left the corporate world and went into my own business. And so I've never looked back. It's just the best. It's, freedom, income, get to do cool stuff, impact people. It's great.
So when you mentioned having an engineering degree, but then going on and getting your MBA, how did you know how to navigate? Because we've had previous guests on this show that went and got their engineering degree, but then they realized, look, I don't really want to do the mathematics so much. I'm not really interested in the logistics. And then they jumped off and did something else. Like, would you say the MBA, having that MBA was able to guide you on to know what's the next move, what's the next business move that you should be taking? Kind of talk us through that transition, because that can be very challenging when you go to school for 4 years for one specific thing. And then all of a sudden you realize, look, everything's business. I got to figure out how I'm going to monetize and use this degree I just got.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's start with, I wasn't a very good engineer. So I'm like, okay, this ain't going to work out. and I always loved,
and that's the thing in business. You got to be honest, man. You got to know what your strengths are straight up.
I'm good enough, but you don't want me designing anything. And so, and I loved business. I loved how the money moved, and I just loved it. And I could have probably taught myself everything I learned in an MBA on my own by reading books and whatnot. I'm a huge reader. But I said, I'm going to have credibility as a business person if I've got that degree. It was more for other people that they, okay, he knows what he's talking about.
Okay.
But honestly, after you got an engineering degree, a business degree is cake. It's, the math is relatively easier. The concept, particularly if you like the stuff, and I loved it. So it came easy to me, and that gave me the credibility. And I kind of jumped from that point over onto the business side, marketing, basically technical marketing. So it was engineering and business together.
Mhm.
and I never looked back after that. I always ran technical companies. So it was great that I had the engineering degree, helped me solve problems, helped me be logical,
Yeah.
helped me be really good at math and stuff. And then adding the business just really helped me direct me where I wanted to go in life. So it was a good combo for me, at least.
Yeah, that was the one thing that turned me off about being a business major was the math. I couldn't
Yeah.
stand math. I couldn't stand the math. And then playing football, you could only do a certain amount of classes, but the math was just like, look, I'm good. I'm gonna have to figure it out. I got to figure something else out. So,
Yeah.
as you spoke about your extensive career in business, is there sort of something that you commonly see because things were changing, the world is changing, like when it comes to business, the way we're able to have this conversation now was not the same way even maybe 10, 15 years
Mhm.
ago. How were you able to adjust? What mistakes and what are some of the highs and lows that you've sort of seen when you start to see the world changing and businesses, the needs are different, products are different, services are different? What's your process for navigating that stuff?
Yeah, well, and there have been a bunch of different technology changes, during my career. And
Mhm.
my answer is like lean in and learn about it. Like go figure out what it means, what the impact is. And for me, I'm always looking for what's the business case? What can I use this for? What does it really make better? So, the internet came in
Yeah,
and we got aggressive about it, but it always gets overhyped in the beginning
yeah.
and then it settles down to what it's really good at, right? NFTs got overhyped, and then they maybe aren't as much. They aren't really much anything, right?
Remember that.
Bitcoin got overhyped.
Yeah.
It's got its place, and now AI. Right now, AI is so hot and overhyped.
Mhm.
It's going to settle down into what it's really good at and
Right.
really useful. But it's not, and it'll be game changing there. But it's
Mhm.
not going to change everything. It's just going to change some things a lot. And so, but I'm all about lean in, learn it, figure it out. Don't be afraid of it. I run into people, even CEOs,
Mhm.
and they're not old, and they go, I'm too old to learn about that stuff. I'm like, what are you dead? I mean, you're not dead yet. You can still learn things. So I'm all about lean in and learn it. I mean,
Right.
it's not to be feared. It's cool. There's
Mhm.
and learn it and use it and leverage it. And if you're early, you get an advantage, right? If you're an early adopter, you get and you figure out what to use it for, you get an advantage over everybody else. So the people that are adopting AI hard,
Mhm.
they're getting a big advantage. They don't need as many people to get the job done. They're getting its work is done more efficiently.
Mhm.
So I'm all about lean in, learn it fast, learn it early, adopt it, but don't believe the hype that it's gonna like take over the world because it's not.
Right.
But there's definitely a place.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm glad you mentioned that because you're right. The technology is changing everything, and AI is changing it. Nowadays, people can call themselves whatever it is they want to call themselves online, and then pretend to have a huge following. In my opinion, Jim, business is very confusing to the younger generation coming up because they don't exactly know what it is. You see a
Yeah.
lot of people calling themselves a CEO and founder or a founder. They kind of interchangeably use it. Can you kind of just for our listeners and for the people that are interested in this kind of work, can you just kind of clearly define, first of all, what business actually is, but more importantly, the difference between a founder and a CEO? So that way people know, hey, you can be an entrepreneur. I do this thing all the time called an wintrepreneur tip. You can still be an entrepreneur while having a job. You don't have to just go and leave your job and, end up like me at one point I had no money. You could still do things that are, aligning with your passion and your vision and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think a simple definition of a business is an entity, a bunch of people generally, that transform one resource into another resource and make a profit doing it.
Yes.
And hopefully servicing and making a lot of people happy in the process, right? You don't get to exist if you're not serving people somehow with the product, the service, or whatever. So you take one thing, raw materials, people, talent, whatever, turn it into something more valuable, and you get paid for that. That's a business. It's
That's a bit
really pretty
right.
straightforward. And a founder
Right.
is somebody who started the business.
Hmm.
Like they had the great idea, clean piece of paper. They go, hey, I think we're going to do X, Y, Z, whatever,
Hmm.
and they created the business, which takes guts. It's
Right.
not, you jump out. There's no revenue, no salary, no nothing, and you got to create it from nothing.
Right.
A CEO, on the other hand, is somebody that runs a company. And some of those CEOs did found the business, like
Hmm.
they created it and they run it. But for a long time, I was a CEO and I was just a hired gun. Like people would hire me to run their company for them.
Hmm.
And I was pretty good at it, but I wasn't the founder. I didn't start that business. I just inherited it from the last guy, and then I hopefully grew it. So people use both titles, but if you say CEO and founder, then you had to have in my book, you have to have started the business. CEO just means you're running the whole thing. So, and I think that's in the younger generation, this question of, does business do good? I'm going to say, if you're not doing good work, meaning you're not making people happy, you're not serving people, you don't deserve to exist.
Right.
Like, businesses are supposed to be a force for good, not a force for evil. Now, there's some bad actors, they exist, but 99% of the people are just doing good work, helping people, and making money doing it,
Yeah, the more and more you're talking, I'm thinking of the book, The Ride of a Lifetime by Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney. And I remember reading that book and kind of the way him and Steve Jobs worked together, the way he was kind of in and out, and some of his history and stuff like that. So when you're talking to young people, and you have actually a network of people who are CEOs or people that are aspiring to be CEOs, what are what's the advice that you give to people that are hoping to become CEOs, or the people that may be CEO material, as they like to say?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you sort of see in people, or that you would expect to see in people, if they do eventually want to cross that threshold and become the CEO of a company? I love how we get said too sometimes, like the CEO, baby.
I start with, you got to be ambitious. Like, when I got out of college, I was like, I wanted to run the world, right? I was like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna run everything.
same
And I'm
way.
like,
Same
right?
exact way.
Super ambitious. And here's the thing, I thought everybody wanted to run the whole world.
Right.
So I'm in competition with everybody for that job. And it
Yeah,
turns out most people want to do their job, go home at 5, crack a beer, and chill. Like,
exactly.
they're not going to do the work. They just don't want to. And that's cool.
Right.
So it's actually a limited number of people that have the ambition and the drive and the want to, like, learn and do the work to get it. So there's your first one. You
Mhm.
cannot get the job unless you're willing to bust your butt to get it. And whether in somebody's company, or even if your own company, you even work harder. Like, there's a line that goes, the definition of an entrepreneur founder is somebody who's willing to work 80 hours a week so they don't have to work 40 hours a week for someone else.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So you
I
could have a
love
job
that.
and work your 40, but doing it on your own, you're not working 40, you're working, some bigger number.
I think you just gave us an exclusive. I don't know if I've ever, I mean, this is over 800 episodes of the show. I don't think I've ever heard that line. Whether
Yeah.
it's, so you just hit us with a brand new exclusive,
There you go.
folks. There it is. That's a good one. I have
Okay,
not,
I'm done. I'm walking out. It's over.
I'm telling you, we could end the interview right there, guys. He just dropped the mic. Man, that's a good one. That just hit me.
Yeah. So they're willing to work hard. They're ambitious. They're willing to take some risk that a lot of people won't, which is funny because, like, I think about, they go, well, I'm in a big company. I got low risk, right?
Hmm?
But we've all seen big companies go, hey, things aren't so good. We're going to fire a third of our workforce. Like, then Tesla just
Well,
dropped a whole
speaking
bunch of.
of ESPN, that's actually what made me pick up the book, was when I saw these prominent people on TV just being let go, just left and right, gone. It's like that.
Yeah.
But then here comes Pat McAfee with the show he's had on YouTube for years, and it's like, boom, there you go. You get the primetime spot. I was
Well,
like, whoa, what
yeah,
just happened?
but here's the deal. If I run my own company and I keep my customers really happy,
Yeah.
there's no getting fired. Like, all I got to do is keep them happy and I'm good to go. Like, I might lose a client here or there, but I'm safer, I think,
Uh-huh.
running your own thing than being in the corporate environment, which is upside down world. Most people think I'm safe in IBM or Apple or Google or wherever. I'm like, not so much, because they can make a decision, you can't control it, and you're on
Like
the street.
just like that.
Doesn't happen in your own business as long as you're smart about it.
Exactly. At the same time, though, because the reason I brought Bob Iger up is because
Yeah.
that was kind of the thing that came up when all this was going on. Now, I have a sports background, and
Yeah.
when I was watching and I was seeing that, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, they hired Pat McAfee," but it was like, no, they actually acquired him, and they acquired him because he ran his company in serving the same group of people that ESPN serves. So if you are building your business, you do still have to do some of the things in which corporate company would do in terms of serving your audience. Now, you can do it your way. You can run it. You can swear on your show. You can do whatever it is you're trying to do. But there has to be an element there that, hey, I'm serving a similar audience, because there's only so much, there's only so much ambition to go around, where you're going to run around the same, or you're going to be around the same ambitious person. All right, that audience needs to be served in some kind of way. what makes you unique, what makes you stand out, what makes you get to a point where at some point you will be acquired or get acquired in some kind of way. And the reason I'm bringing all that up is because I do want to make sure I give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about your book, where, like I mentioned in the intro, there's a lot of delegation that goes on if you do want to put yourself in a primary position, whether it is to sell your company or to be the CEO. And I believe you have like a step-by-step framework on how to get it done and stuff like that. So I'll kind of let you kind of speak on
Yeah,
that.
no problem. So just to get to that job, by the way,
Yeah.
my model was I'm going to work for other people and learn everything I need to know on
Uh-huh.
their dime, and then I'm going to go do it on my own, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You might. That's the way. Like I said, I teach and I deal with a lot of people I can't stand, but they will never hear. Well, they'll hear me say it on the show all the time. But I have to bite my tongue and I have to move and say, look, I'm learning how to hire teachers. So at some point when I open up my own school, I know exactly who it is I'm bringing in. I know what to ask. All
There
that.
you go.
We all
So
go through it, guys. You guys are not biased. Every single person goes through it. And I'm sure some of
yep.
you can't stand my guts at times too. So it's even.
Yep. So when you're a CEO, and I'll talk a little bit about the book. This is the book, Great CEOs Are Lazy. What I talk about is like you can do the job in kind of a normal amount of hours. I'm not talking 40, I'm talking 50, 60,
Yeah.
which is normal for a CEO, right?
Mhm.
A bad CEO will work 80 and not get good results. So what's the difference? The good CEO thinks about what we call the kink in the hose. So think about a garden hose trying to get water out the end.
Mhm.
If there's a kink in the hose, the water doesn't come out. So the job is find the kink, open it up.
Mhm.
Same thing's true in your business. Somewhere there's a kink in the hose that's stopping your business from performing the way you want it to perform. Growth, serving the right number of clients, profit, whatever your thing you're after is. And your job as a leader is find the kink and open it up. And it turns out that the only valuable work as a leader is to find the kink and open it up. It turns out that we spend our time on all this other baloney
Mhm.
that isn't at the kink in the hose.
Right.
So really good CEOs, they go, all right, I got this. I'm going to spend 30, 40% of my time on the kink in the hose. I'm going to take everything else and shrink it down into a reasonable number of hours because I know it's not particularly valuable work.
Mhm.
And that's how they get it down to 50 hours a week and still get amazing results. And that's why I say they're lazy.
All right.
I mean, they're not really lazy, but they can work normal numbers of hours and still get really cool results because they're really focused on the thing that gives them maximum bang for the buck.
Right. And I'd also actually kind of add to that too, because sometimes when they're focusing on that baloney, it's something that they already have mastered. So in some ways, it can look at it, you can look at it as like you're being lazy because you're only doing the things that you know you're going to be good at. Like I know tons of people who spend hours. I mean, tons of people who spend so much time making a website, making a do photo shoots and and then calling that time business. Like you're standing in front of a camera so you look good and so you can post a picture on social media and say, now I'm in business. Those things are not, those things are the baloney that he's referring to. Again, I'm not saying that it's wrong or you don't need to have a nice logo or nice slogan and all that, but that's not necessarily what's going to make it so the money's coming in. That's the easy part of business. One of my favorite parts of actually of watching Shark Tank is when they would say, sometimes, look, we're not going to give you the deal, but if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to just take the advice we gave you and go run with it. We're like, and that's the part like that was one of my favorite episodes. So when you talk about the baloney, it's important for people to understand that too. If you're spending so much time on that, you actually are being lazy because you're not focusing on things that's going to require some self-development. It's going to require some uncomfortable conversations and ultimately possibly letting some people go. So, after that, there's a next phase to it as well, right?
Yeah, and by the way, just to tag on, this is like I think we talked about the gym business, right? The
Yeah.
way you grow your muscles is you get uncomfortable, right? You stress your muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Personal growth happens the same way. You got to go where you're uncomfortable, and that's how you grow. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're doing something you're really good at, you're comfortable and it's chill, it's easy, you're not growing. You're not growing, your company's not growing. So you got to go do the thing you probably don't like to do, but you really should be doing, and
Yeah.
that's how you grow your company. So
Exactly.
the other thing I talk about is the five hats and this idea of when you're a leader, CEO, when you're finding the kink in the hose, you either go into what we call analyst mode or learner mode, where I'm analyzing the business, I'm looking at numbers, I'm trying to figure out what's going on, or player mode, where I go in and do the thing. And
Mm-hmm.
when I'm doing it, I'm going, why isn't this working the way I should? Is it the right order? Do I have the right people working on this? Should I change the process? Why is this not going the way I want to? So you're solving the problem by like immersing yourself into it.
Right.
That's how you find the kink, is either analyst or player. And
Right.
then the kink lies in one of only three areas. It's either your business model,
Mm-hmm.
change what you do for whom, what the prices you charge, and so forth. The talent, the people you have around the business, like they're just not capable or they don't understand, you need to coach them, or the methodology, the processes you use to run your business, like how we do what we do is not working the way we'd like it to work, and that needs to be changed. So
Right.
find it with player or analyst,
Mm-hmm.
fix it with what we call architect, business model, coach, find the right people, coach the right people up, or maybe get the wrong people off the team,
Yeah.
or engineer, which is the methodologies and the processes you use. And it's really that simple.
Yeah.
You look at really good CEOs, that's where they spend like big chunks of their time in one of those 5 roles.
Exactly. And actually, speaking of being in Maryland, I talk about the founder of Under Armour a ton on this show because I was
Oh,
rounded football player and I saw how he built it. And he actually pitched the concept to Nike. And a lot of people don't. He pitched the concept to Nike and got told no. But I did hear Kevin Plank say one time that the hardest thing any organization could do is get the people right.
yeah.
Get the people right. So, saying all that, it kind of leads me to, because you already mentioned the CrossFit gym that you own right there in Bethesda. And I have a ton of experience in that area. And what I do know is there's a lot of people working out outside, man. There's a lot of people out there that are getting their workout in outside. They like going around that Bethesda Road Park. And I've been involved with several gym owners that opened up and shut down with just like that. So can you speak to us on how you were able to make that situation a success using the model that you created? So again, we would know, hey, if we're going to build something that's cool, that's great, but let's know the structure in case, things go down, because it's a saturated business.
It is, yeah.
It's a saturated business. So
And I think part of one is engineering the customer experience
yeah.
is one. So what's the place like? Do you have the right equipment, the right sound system, right? So they go in and they get the right vibe, because it's, for a lot of people, it's the third place. Like people talk about Starbucks being on their third place. For
Right.
a lot of people, it's the gym. Like it's home, work, gym. Those are my places. Those are my people.
Yeah.
So that's the second one, is build the right community,
Uh-huh.
like good people with the right spirit in the gym. And once in a while, we have people that are kind of jerks.
Yeah.
We'll turf them. We will not include. We'll say, listen, you go find another gym. You shouldn't be here,
Wow.
because they're disruptive. But people are there to have a workout, challenge themselves, have friends. We do things like cookouts and parties to sort of keep that community going.
Okay.
And we want that third place to exist. And so it's getting stronger. Yeah, it's getting fitter, but it's also, these are my people.
Right.
They think like me. They feel like me. They want to be fit like me. And I think the coaches is where the talent part.
Right.
So business model design
Mm-hmm.
was part of it, and the processes we use. But then the talent is getting the right coaches. And you've probably been coached by people you're like, nah, just not a good coach. Doesn't have that energy, doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't. And we've had some coaches that, like, they know what they're talking about, but they don't come with the right energy, because people are going for good energy.
Yeah.
And we go, listen, it's not working out, man. And so quality people who are doing the coaching, super important for the experience, which is what keeps people at the gym. So like there you get business model design, talent, and processes all built in. And we made it through COVID,
Yeah,
which is
that's
a pretty
yeah.
good trick, man, for a gym.
Yeah, because that's what happened to a lot of gyms at that particular time. That's what I left the gym business during that time to get more into education, because things were being shut down. And the one thing I do want to make sure I ask you about, because when you're talking fitness or any business, there's obviously being approached with the franchising model. But should you go buy into a franchise, or should you build it on your own? How are you able to navigate or give some advice when it comes to making that decision?
Yeah. So franchises are great if you don't feel like you have the creativity to create your own business. And I'm going to say, you give me a blank piece of paper and say, figure it out. I'm not sure if I could do it or not. Honestly, that's just not my capability. But if you give me a model and say, run the model, well, I could probably do that. And that's what a franchise is. They go, here's A, B, C, D, E, F, G is exactly how you do it.
Right.
You just got to go execute the model and you'll be successful. We'll make sure. That's a great option. Like I was looking at some other exercise. We were looking at expanding. We were looking at some other exercise modalities like F45, which Mark Wahlberg is involved in. Orange Theory is a franchise that a lot of people get involved in. They do real well.
Yeah.
But you go to all of them, they're the same. It's like McDonald's. Like you get the burgers look like this, the fries look like this, everything's prescribed.
Uh-huh.
So that there's no creativity really. But if you just, I'll go in, I'll do what they say, you're going to do just great. So if you want to be in business, it's a great way to do it. If you're like a super creative, it's probably not the way to go for you. You probably got to do your own thing.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, I want to be in business and I want a high probability of success, franchise is a pretty solid option for you, I think.
Yeah, I have experiences in all those, whether it's F45 and Orange Theory and all that. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I actually noticed, I did a video on this, is I still work out at Planet Fitness, which is a big box gym. But what Planet Fitness did is they actually installed TVs in their area, and they have the little, like, the sign of, all right, every 3 minutes do this workout, every 3 minutes, or every 3 minutes do another workout. They put the TVs in the gym to compete with Orange Theory, that if you don't have TVs in there, then you got a real problem. So the big box gyms are now trying to play catch up with the smaller gyms, the studio gyms, and it's all sorts of back and forth. It's kind of a habit nowadays to just pick up on these little things, because I was so knee deep into just fitness, entrepreneurship, and all that stuff, thinking of so many different models. And that, again, it's important that you know how you're going. The bottom line to all of this is how you're going to serve your audience, how you're going to serve your people, the people that take money out of. Another thing I picked up from the Under Armour crew is nothing realer than someone taking money out of their pocket, giving it to you right on the spot. How do you serve that person? How are you going to make that happen? And all that being said, I do want to have you talk a little bit about the network of CEOs that you have now, how you were able to build that, because obviously, being the CrossFit owner is the only thing you do, but your main thing is obviously building the CEO project, how that gets started and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I was involved in peer groups, CEO peer groups, as I ran various companies. So
Mastermind, maybe,
I
yeah.
had the value. I knew
Yeah.
it worked.
Uh-huh.
So when I left the corporate thing, I actually looked at a bunch of franchises,
Uh-huh.
and I feel like I'm a little more creative, and like that's kind of one of my gifts.
Yeah.
Not blank sheet of paper creative, but creative once I got something to work with.
Exactly.
And I remember talking to one franchise guy, and he goes, the only thing you change is you get to sign your name to the paper. Otherwise, you don't change anything about what we taught you. I'm like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
But I love the peer group business, and so I got involved in that again almost 20 years ago. And early days, it was me and a phone and a computer, and slowly we began to accumulate audience. And
So
so what we
peer
do,
group, though, just for our listeners, can you kind of clearly define what a peer group is?
yeah, funny enough, it goes back to that Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich. He talks about building a mastermind group around you of people that are interested in your success but don't have an agenda,
Yeah.
smart, capable people, and you can do it on your own.
Yeah.
Basically, we do that for people. And so if you're a CEO running a $50 million company, we'll put other $50 million CEOs around you, super smart, non-competitive, who are going to help you on your journey. And what we do is we bring your really hard issue, your point of constraint, that kink in the hose we talked about, you bring that to your group, and they help you solve your kink in the hose, open it up so you can go to the next level. And then the kink moves normally. What's your next kink? Let's figure out how to do that. And the deal is, I'll help you, but you got to help me. So everybody brings their particular issue and has the group help them with it. It's all facilitated by us. We're all former CEOs. And it's hard. You're running a good sized company. Who do you go talk to about your issues? Your spouse, maybe. You can't always talk to your team when it's a hard issue. Like, who do I talk to? Yeah. So this is a place to really figure those things out in a high trust environment. So that's what we do. We build those for people. We curate them, make it kind of let them hit the easy button, and bang, they got a mastermind group that would be hard for them to ever assemble.
It's not only that, though, but then actually the CEO of the school that I have here is, they deal with boards of directors, and these board members, they come in, they have real no interest in what's going on in the business. They are, again, they want to see profit. They want to see, or even if you have shareholders, they want to see those numbers go up. How do you go about filtering out the people that are part of the network? What steps do you recruit the CEOs? How's that process work?
And let's be clear that a board of directors is not a no consequence environment for a CEO. You can't really walk in and go, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'm really not sure what to do right now. And they go, why do we have you in this job again?
Exactly. Me and him talk about that all the time. Whenever it's a lot, man. It's because
Yeah.
with us, this is West Palm Beach, Florida. There's the amount of money running around here. I thought Bethesda was a rich area. Come out to West Palm Beach, I'm like, wow, this is a
Yeah.
different scene, Jim. So
Yeah. I
anyway,
just got real poor real fast, right?
I'm telling you. Again, I've never, and now again, that's where I work. I'm not, I mean, West Palm Beach isn't where I reside, but for the most part, South Florida in general, from West Palm to Fort Lauderdale to Miami, this is like a different scene from when I was in the DMV because it's so
Yeah.
much bigger. I guess a lot of people migrate to Florida. So
So when we're picking people, and that's part of the product, like remember I said in the gym, we're careful about who is in the gym, that they're not jerks. We do the same thing in the peer groups, right? Because you imagine like you go to a group and you're going to start to tell them about your issues and somebody's just a jerk.
mhm,
Why do I listen to this person, right?
exactly.
So when I'm interviewing people, and we interview everybody we work with, we're looking for arrogance. We want to see humility,
Mhm.
learner, but a performer. So and you probably, as you were on various sports teams, there are people that they were high performers, but they were humble. Like they're like, I'm just doing my part on the team, man. Everybody was there. I did my part. Doesn't matter if they made the game-saving tackle or made the touchdown. Or like, hey, that's my job. That's what I did.
She did.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't have gotten there if the line didn't open up the hole. I wouldn't have gotten there if the
Expected.
coach didn't call the right play. So
Yeah.
they got humility. So learner, humble, performer are like perfect people for us.
Yes.
People that don't want to hear direct feedback, like you say, hey, you're screwing up. You need to hear this.
Yeah.
People go, blah, blah, blah. They get defensive.
Right.
That's not a good fit for us. So I
Nice.
remember one guy, CEO, I was interviewing, and he spent 20 minutes telling me how smart he was and how much he didn't need it. I'm like, you know what? You're right. You don't need it.
You
That's
know,
okay. I have
just let
lunch
them talk.
anyway.
That's
So
so you interview every single person, huh?
yeah.
Like, and is this something that is just strictly virtual or is it in person? How does the process sort of grow to where
Yeah, so we get
manage that?
together.
I imagine
We
a lot.
I got 8 coaches around the country, almost 150 CEOs that we work with.
Man,
They come together in groups of 8, so kind of a small group. We meet physically. During COVID, we did virtual, but real quick they got tired of it. They're like, we want to meet face to face.
yeah,
And if you're really going to build high trust relationships, it's just better face to face, I think,
yeah, yeah.
So we meet quarterly, we meet face to face. Each member will host, so we'll go to their building or their boardroom or whatever and
Uh-huh.
sit down and do our work.
Wow.
And then we work, our coaches work one on one with those CEOs in between the meetings. So it's like an executive coach and a peer group kind of put together is how we handle it.
Yeah.
And we don't do monthly. A lot of organizations like this go monthly.
Yeah, I was thinking of several that actually do some. There's some I know do weekly. They'll meet at a hotel or every bi-weekly or something like that.
I'm going to tell you, for busy people,
Yeah.
particularly people that travel for their job, when I was running various companies and they said, hey, Jim, third Thursday of the month, meet the Hilton, I'd be like, that is not happening, man. There is no way
Uh-huh.
I can make, but if it's quarterly and I know a year ahead when it's going to be, I can work my schedule around that. So that's why we do it that way. It's just better for the customers.
Right. And this is actually very important too, as you guys are listening in, is you got to create your structure to attract your ideal client. So
Yeah.
I love how you mentioned the fact that look, if we're gonna bring in high performing individuals, high performing CEOs, high character people, these people are busy, and we got to give them a calendar in the year in advance. These are the 4 dates that we have every year. Just be there, and then we'll have coaches coaching you within that time frame. So now you're attracting who you want to attract. So you probably have less interviews of saying, "Hey, I got to kick people out," just based on your structure of how your thing is done. You're gonna
Yeah.
get those humble people that are busy, and
Well,
every
we,
or
we screw up every so often and one of them gets through. But
exactly. But could you imagine if it was every 2 weeks you tried to do it and you just want to get your numbers up and then it becomes just a money game to where I'm just trying to get people. And that happens a lot in fitness and in sports as well, is you gotten so desperate to just get bodies. Now you're just bringing whoever in. And ultimately that leads to the demise of your business. So
Well, I was that it's funny because I remember CrossFit, which is what I own. people, it's a higher price point, but
Uh-huh.
people show up. We get like 80, 90% of the people show up every month or
Yep.
multiple times a month.
Yep.
Compare that to a Globo gym, right? Big box. I
Exactly.
remember the numbers. I was in a Globo gym for a while. They said we've got 5,000 people signed up for the gym. It was a big gym.
Uh-huh.
And an average month, 1,500 people show up.
Exactly.
So they go, 3,500 people are paying $100 a month to
Yep.
not use the product. I'm like, what a crazy business, man.
I've sold memberships for both, and it's crazy to hear the mindset of the big box gym manager and the mindset of the CrossFit gym manager, two completely different worlds. And that's why I'm so big, regardless of the industry, identifying your ideal target,
Yes.
identifying your audience, and just run with it, man. Run with it. Forget about everything else. Serve those people. That's it. Serve those
Yep.
people. Don't overthink it. Go and find your ideal people and go and run with it, man. So,
It's
all guys,
funny, a
yeah,
Globo gym, they probably say, we want people that would like to be fit, but don't actually want to go to the
don't
gym.
actually
That's
want
like
to.
our perfect client, right?
That's the way. That was the mindset, because this is when I was at LA Fitness or even Spunk Fitness. They're no longer in business now, but there was $10 a month, and their
Yeah.
whole thing was, hey, sign dollar down, sign people up, get them on a payroll. Let's forget that the $10 a month is even coming out every month, to the point where people have it and they don't even mind. Some of them don't even mind that the $30 is coming out every single month. And that manager, that corporate person is like, all right, perfect. How do we get more of those people? And
I
that's
know,
the
right?
issue. It's sad, but hey, it's like, look, you got to, I guess that's kind of the game you're in. And as young
Yeah.
people, aspiring business owners, you just have to use your discernment. You really have to use your discernment and follow what's on your heart. A lot of people got to understand that too. Business is about what's pumping on the inside as well. It's so
Yeah.
much in your soul and in your guts, man. So, I could probably talk to you for hours upon hours. I do want to be very respectful of your time. Can you tell people how they can get in touch? What's next if they want to get involved with the things you're doing? Feel free to plug away, man.
Yeah, sure. So you can grab the book, Great CEOs Are Lazy, on Amazon. We'll ship it out to you. If you want to find out more about the peer group business, go to theceoproject.com. Give me an email, jim@theceoproject.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So yeah, any of those work. And we're on Instagram and LinkedIn, and all the other stuff as well, if you want to find us there.
Excellent. And we'll make sure we include that in the show notes as well. So, Dr. Jim, the way I close out all the shows is I want you to just use your imagination a little bit. You just graduated college, you are a young engineer, you decide to maybe do the MBA. Pretend that college version of you has come into the Zoom room. Give him some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
Um, this would be the advice. You think you need to go do the corporate thing to learn? Don't do that. Start your business right now.
Ooh.
You'll have a better outcome if you just go for it early before you have any obligations, no kids, no mortgage, no nothing. Go for it early. That's
Hey,
my
that
advice.
is a straight. You can tell he's a businessman. That's a straight shooter, straight advice. Just do it. Just do the damn thing, man. All right. Just
You
stop
got it.
all that talking and just do it. All right. Oh man, that was awesome, man. Pleasure catching up with you, man. Looking forward to keeping up with your journey. And definitely again, we'll be in touch and figuring out how we can possibly collaborate in the future. All that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.